Boom! What's going on, you turkeys? In this week's episode, we talk to the one and only Justin Phillips.
Justin is an entrepreneur. He's a video producer and YouTube creator. This podcast was super interesting, and you get to see a lot of the insight that is his mind.
Yeah, guys, the inner workings of his head are crazy, especially when we get to talking about tech, production, everything. So make sure to tap into this one. Maybe you'll learn a thing or two if you're interested in starting one of your own endeavors. Make sure to check this podcast out. It was a banger.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoy.
We're at 600 and some subscribers. Help us to get to 1,000. That's our first goal, 1,000, on our way to 10K by the end of the year. I love you guys.
Come on, guys. Peace. Boom.
Justin
Go
Phillips.
get us podcast.
GG Pod.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. You were telling me you were having quite the long day right before we started this
I was
pod.
having a really long day right before doing this. That's why I do this, because I need something to actually get me excited. You know?
Gotta wind down. What's that life like, man? Like, I mean, obviously I know I edit a lot, but is that something you're doing like the majority of your days? Like, are you spending a lot of times editing, producing, doing those kinds of things?
Yeah. So, I mean, today in particular, I am editing every day. I do have clients that are doing, daily social media is a big thing, and short form's a big thing, which is feasible to do every single day.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to go home tonight and I'm going to make 30-second TikToks after
crazy.
I get done with this. And then over the weekend, I might try to make 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. So I have a couple to lay out throughout next week. But it's become a very daily thing. I've also done a lot in the past of like where my actual business has come from.
Yeah.
Is that I found out that people pay you to do shit that they don't want to do.
Yes.
Which is the really tedious, really boring editing for a lot of people. So I've done a whole lot of just like transcribing and captioning videos and that kind of thing, which gets annoying after a while, but it keeps the cash flow coming in.
I'd imagine you're pretty finely tuned now, though. Like you probably got a good system, a good rhythm.
Yeah, you figure it out after a while. I'm not the best, honestly, at creating those systems with my editing. I kind of like keeping everything all parsed out and like moving it around.
Yeah.
And I could probably have it a lot more automated than I do, but it does. And there are tools out there that help and whatnot now. I mean, since the time that I started editing, I edited on Premiere, and Premiere has come out with an auto captioning feature that you just kind of set up. Like what's the maximum character length you want before it switches to the next thing? And do you want it to be single lines or double lines? And then you can just highlight them all and pick the fonts and whatnot.
Wow.
And it just kind of snaps it all together for you. And Premiere just keeps coming out with new tools that make it easier every day. And then there's other tools as well that they're kind of ripping off along the way. They just came out with a text-based editor now too, so it'll actually just like transcribe your whole video and give it to you as like a Word document, and then you can just delete words and it like edits the video accordingly.
Did you see that new thing that, I don't know if they like actually came out with it yet, but that new AI thing that like helps you keep your eyes on the screen, but like you can be reading, like say I was reading from the laptop and I was like looking down. It's like a new AI tool that'll like fix your eyes like you're still looking at the screen.
That's an NVIDIA thing, isn't it?
I'm not sure, honestly. I seen like a before and after of it like on Instagram. It was like the guy like looking at his computer and like reading off a script, and then it showed like the after where it was like him looking right at the camera.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, that is kind of crazy. Do you think you can train yourself to like keep your eyes focused?
I mean, it's just hard to like
while thinking and while like processing what you want to say and stuff. I don't know. That.
You might be a crazy motherfucker. We were just talking about that the other day, right? Like
I know,
having to like look off to like find things, like to. I don't know. I think it's just easier to like flow the words that you're looking for when you're looking off and doing those kinds of things.
It's very impressive if they can make that AI to where it's not like super weird, because even in like real life, if you're talking to someone, like you're making eye contact, but it's rarely direct eye contact, but you start staring at someone like right in the eyes the whole time.
It's weird.
It's like, that's weird.
You're gonna look like a sociopath just staring at the screen, like talking about the economic forum, just staring at the screen. It's gonna be wild. Does that worry you though about like the future of your business, like the AIs coming in and the robots taking over?
I've thought about it. I mean, the answer is yeah, it kind of does, and a lot of what makes software so cool is that it ultimately empowers people to be their own thing. That's how a lot of businesses are. That's how PC like revolutionized computers, was by putting a computer on everyone's desk type of thing. But naturally, I also think that things are just going to keep evolving. Even with the AI now, questionably, like the art argument is starting to really go into question, where it's like there will always be the art of videography, but I think you're always going to need people to like do things, to do something. And I think if we do start getting to the point that like robots are just like running our lives, that starts, I have bigger issues to worry about.
That's a scary slope.
There's like robots doing my laundry and shit, I'm not going to be worried about my video editing career anymore.
I wonder at what point the AI replaces the creator too. Like that's like something that'll
Is weird.
start shallowing the waters.
Particularly like
soon.
AI creators in the metaverse.
Yeah. Are they still doing that thing? Like, is the
seems like
metaverse
it kind of died down a little bit, right?
the metaverse?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it got a big push like last year around like the Super Bowl. I remember like during last year's Super Bowl, you would see ads for it all the time. The metaverse, Facebook, but it seemed like they've been kind of taking their foot off the gas from that a little bit.
Yeah, I think they probably definitely burned through a lot of marketing dollars that they're not happy with. But I still see it every once in a while. Today I was like at work, like scrolling through my phone, and I saw this like that one of those like TikTok ads came up that was like what it's like to be a content creator, a concert creator in the metaverse, and it was this girl just like making fucking concerts in virtual reality, and then I realized it was a meta ad, and I was like, oh.
Imagine if you bought real estate in the meta. And it's just sitting there.
It's just sitting there collecting dust.
It's not real.
People,
it's just a state.
Yeah. Some people spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on virtual real estate in the metaverse, which is fucking spooky, man.
Well, NFTs died down too.
Yeah.
You don't hear many people talking about NFTs or buying NFTs or like that anymore.
Well, freaking Sam Bankman-Fried doing what he did.
What's that about?
That was the FTX guy. You remember that conversation we had with Matt?
Got killed?
No, he got arrested. I believe he definitely got arrested. I believe he's in prison right now.
Really?
So, yeah.
There's a lot of weird shit going on, but basically crypto kind of collapsed a little bit. Crypto didn't collapse as like a currency, but as like the fad that it was.
Yeah.
And I think NFTs were closely tied to that. And people were like, oh, this is a bunch of bullshit. And that's kind of, people are starting to get back into the real world a little bit.
Yeah.
I am actually noticing. I read an article today too where people are starting to finally like look to get out of their house and go back to work.
That's good.
Because it is good. And I mean, I'm kind of on both sides of the work from home argument. But one thing I used to always tell people this because I've had kind of seasons in my life where I've been editing full time and working from home full time. And it's like, it's more expensive than people realize when you're, especially if you live alone.
Yeah.
Like I do. So there's not like a kid or wife or whoever at your house all day. It's like not working from home saves you a lot on electricity and on your trash and on all this other stuff. Like there's just an operating cost to having a house.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are starting to notice that, and like, the cost of everything is going up. So now people are sitting at home working from home. They're like, yay. And their heat bill is going through the goddamn roof.
Yeah.
And it's wild.
I'd imagine your electric bill's through the ceiling.
I think it's not as bad as I as I thought it would be. I'm very conservative about it. Like I turn all my like video lights on to do a YouTube video, and then if I go to the bathroom in the middle, I like turn them off, and I'm like, I can't keep these things running. So.
So what was the idea behind starting, like you actually have a YouTube channel? Do you want to plug the name for it?
Yeah, so the path for it is like youtube.com/JRP Creative, but the name is just my name. It's Justin Phillips. And then YouTube is something I've been like flirting with for 7 years now. I don't know, a long time, on and off. And now it's mostly focused on helping people create better content, I think the keyword there is better, actually, because I feel like when I came up through this, and I was one of these people, it was just this whole season of everyone was creating something, and quite frankly, like the more quantity got into the market, so to speak, the quality of the content came way down, because there was the whole just like, you don't have to have super high production quality, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that, like just record from your phone and put it up there, and then just everybody started doing that. And it took the effort out of it. People were just like, oh, I can just do this, and then I never have to learn how to use a camera and whatnot.
Yes. And
kind of missed the point. That the point was like, no, we're just trying to get you to like do it. You know, perfection is the enemy of progress type of thing, which I do agree with. But it's like, if you're not interested enough in learning about it over time and like scaling it over time, probably creating content just isn't the thing to be doing. Yes. In the first place.
It is a fucking hard game. I don't think a lot of people like, they see like the shine of the whole content creation thing before they jump into it, but most people don't know the fucking ins and outs of even just a basic computer, like to start creating content. So no, that's crazy. So how long have you been in the game then? Like how long have you been doing what you do? Right? Not just posting on YouTube, but how long have you been like into the whole like production scene, I guess? I mean,
really since 2018. So coming up on 5 years at the end of 2018. So 4.5 years. Yeah. So I was in college. I was a sophomore at that point, I think. And I was in my dorm room, and I lived in a dorm by myself by some stroke of luck. And that was when I started podcasting.
Yeah.
I just started I was a business administration major with a concentration in finance. And I was just getting really interested in the business. And I was a work summers and winters, but didn't work during school.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of time out of class that I was just sitting in my room I want to go to Applebee's, but I have no money, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing all the, I went on Google and I was like, how do I make money online?
Yeah.
How do I make, how do I sell feet
stuff.
pics
Yeah.
and stuff?
Oh,
That's hilarious.
But it was this weird, really long, windy road of start posting on social media was at least a piece of everything. It's not where I started. I mean, I went through the drop shipping, the affiliate marketing, every freaking thing you can think of.
How universal is that? It's so funny.
Yeah. For every young entrepreneur.
Yeah, I know. And so I tried a handful of those things, but I ended up creating content because of that. I actually went through a marketing challenge type of deal, like a 100-day challenge, where one of the challenges through that thing was to create content every day for a year. And I was like, that sounds intimidating. And they just laid it out to you. It was kind of like a video course. It was I paid $100 for it, I think, actually. But they laid it out for you, and he was like, okay, so here's how you create content every day for a year. You're going to do this either in the form of a blog, a podcast, or just live stream every day, like a Facebook Live. At this point, I had zero comfortability being on camera whatsoever. It was just not something I did ever. And so I was really leaning towards the blog. I had already blogged a little bit at that point, and I was like, I feel like a podcast is just more efficient blogging. Yeah. Because I just say the shit and then post it, and I'm not writing and editing and researching.
And it's raw.
Yeah, it is. And I was just like, so I can do this fast, and I'm going to be doing it every day, 365 days straight is the goal here. And then that's what I did. My first podcast was JRP Daily. From, I think, October 29th or 30th was the date until October 29th the following year, every single day.
So you posted an episode of the podcast every single day for a year? Holy fuck,
Yeah.
What did you talk about?
And it was more than that. So on that, I mean, trying to do that much, I talked about whatever the fuck I could think about.
Literally, you're probably talking about fucking...
that day, I would just be it was a lot of business. It was entrepreneurship. That was what I was into at the time. I was still learning through, just reading the marketing books and studying Gary Vee and studying Andy Frisella and studying who have you. And so it was a whole lot of that. But if there was something else, some other life lesson I learned, I was a dipshit when I was 20. But... it was just anything. And some episodes were 2 minutes long, and I posted them at 11 p.m. after I had already gone to bed and forgot to do one that day. I was like, fuck. And then I'd get up and I'd freaking record the thing, edit it, post it, all in half an hour. And some of them were 4-hour long interviews. Damn. I mean, I just did the whole thing because I did more than that too. So this actually also kind of started because my best friend went to college in Florida, and he came up to visit around the same time and came to visit me at college. And we kind of had this idea. We were like, let's do a podcast together. So we started one actually the night before I had started JRP Daily. And I was like, oh, I really enjoyed that. I want to do this more than once a week. And then he was not on board. He was like, no, once a week is enough of a commitment for me to try. And I was like, all right, cool. So we kept doing it once a week for the first couple of weeks. And I was just doing 7 days of my own on top of that. So it was 8 a week for about a month. And then I finally just kind of brought him in. I'm like, listen, I'm doing this daily. We're doing it weekly. Why don't I just make the Sunday episode be JRP Daily featuring you? Yeah. And then he would be on it once a week. And then when I got into the flow of doing more interviews, it was Monday through Friday was just me freaking riffing on whatever I could think of. Saturday would be an interview I did over Zoom or whatever. And then Sunday would be me and him. And then that just kind of kept the system going for the rest of that first year.
What do you think you learned in that time, doing that shit every single day?
Literally everything I know.
Yeah.
I am completely self-taught when it comes, or YouTube taught when it comes to production, when it comes to all that type of stuff. And so going through the podcast, biggest lessons I learned are one that I was capable or almost more worthy than I thought I was. Yes. I feel like that's a shitty way to say it, but have you guys ever listened to Andy Frisella's podcast? Because I'm going to keep bringing it up.
No,
never have.
But so he had a podcast at the time I was really into. It was called the MFCEO Project, and it's called Real AF now, and not as good in my humble opinion. But at the time, it was an entrepreneurship podcast. He is the founder and owner of First Form Supplements.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I knew the name sounded familiar.
And so he was my azimuth for my North Star for this whole thing. Yeah. I was just I love what this guy does. I think it's really cool. and so on and so forth. And then we did one of those like cliche dream guest episodes early on, and he was like my number one end all be all. Like, I want to have him on the podcast. At the time, his podcast was number 1 or 2 on the charts. Like, he was right up there with Rogan.
Yeah, bro, I locked Brian out. I'll be right back.
Yeah, Darren got some roommates here.
So he was up there on the charts, and should I like wait for him or should I?
No,
just
go
keep-
for it. Go for it.
And so, but I was just like, it would be so cool if I could get this guy.
Yeah.
And then, so I just keep doing it every day. And he co-hosted the podcast, and so he had a co-host. His co-host's name was Vaughn. And I was just reaching out to everyone at this point. I was in that mindset of like, hey, what the hell? You know, an email can't hurt anybody. What are they going to do? Come to my dorm room and like strangle me or something? And
Fair
so
point.
I started just like reaching out, Instagram, email, and particularly if you're into podcasting and want to have like a better chance at getting people to actually come on, go to their website and see if they have something for that, because he did. It was like a book me on your radio show, and I did a lot of those. And so anyway, I want to say it was episode 120-ish of the podcast. I messaged his co-host of that podcast on Instagram. He agreed to do a Zoom call with me. And then naturally after the Zoom call, I was like, listen, I'm sure you get asked this all the time, but like, if you were trying to get Andy on your podcast, like, do you have any tips for me, anything like that? He was like, I'm not sure, but you can try to reach out to this person. And I did. And then episode 147 of that podcast was with Andy Frisella.
Wow.
Like, just like sitting in First Form HQ, just like, yo, what's up, dude?
That's
and I'm
fucking
like
cool.
sitting in my dorm room in college by myself with like a way too bright like light bar on my desk. I was like, yo, this is really cool. And then it was like, there was a really weird moment because I wasn't really even halfway through the year of podcasting, and I had like just wrapped up an interview with the like God guest that I wanted, pretty much. So I was just like, where does it go from here? But I learned a lot from that too. Like, that's where I really started to learn to like reach out to people and just, I don't know, try, I guess.
It's really just as simple as that. Like, he and I early on, we have this flag up here, Seek Discomfort. These people, I don't know if you ever heard of them. But we reached out to them like very early on. Like, we had like less than 100 subscribers probably when we reached out to them initially. Right?
Yeah.
Probably like way less than 100. And we hit them up about doing it. Granted, it still didn't happen yet, but like instantly, like the people we were talking to, like it seemed like they were really down. We were talking to, I believe, the head of their actual Seek Discomfort brand, like the guy, like the chairman or whatever he goes by for that company, and it seemed like he was very down to do it. I found out about them through YouTube. It was, have you ever heard of Yes Theory?
I've heard of Yes Theory. Sure.
It's them, and that's just like their side brand that they also do with that. So it was really just a simple. And like I said, we didn't do it, and it might never happen still. But like all we did was reach out to them just via email, and we were going back and forth, and they were showing us a lot of love on Instagram. So that was really cool. It really does just take a reach out sometimes.
Yeah,
You
I
get
know.
some pretty wild
like, there
people.
were so many people that I had on that podcast where I was just like, why the hell are you agreeing to this? Like, what are we doing here? You know, and I also learned a lot of the way too is like there's a couple of things I learned when it comes to guests. There is a real like big fish, small pond mentality with a lot of people. I got so many no's from like Instagram influencers I was following at the time that had maybe like between 50 and 100,000 mark. And I got so many yeses from people that had like 1+ million, you know, because then that, you know, I learned that that's the difference between the people that get to a million and the people that cap
Willing to
out
take the
at
risk,
like a 50, 100,000. Is they're the ones that are kind of more, they think it's more like cutthroat and we have to say no to a lot of people and all this type of stuff. And the 1 million+ people are just like, yeah, we want to help literally everybody, you know. And a lot of this also ended right before COVID. Like I was really wanting to start branching out more, and I thought about like going to California to interview Ed Milet. That was a talk that I had that just never happened, and all of this type of stuff. But I also learned that a lot of the smaller people that I talked to are just like really fascinating people out there in the world. And now podcasts that I produce too. Like I love the job so much because I'm just listening to like people share their experiences and their lessons about life, and I'm getting paid to do it. And I'm like, okay, this is the coolest job.
Yeah, that's
ever.
one of the coolest things about podcasting, right, man? Is that like everybody expects I want to start a podcast and I want to have like fucking Jalen Hurts on or anybody, like just some big crazy ass motherfuckers, but like literally just some of the people we talk to that are just hometown heroes from here that are out there like really chasing their dreams and their goals and like doing really cool things. Those are some of the most interesting people to talk to. It's like the people that didn't make it yet but are still on the grind and grinding every day and working really hard to achieve a goal. Those are some of my favorite people to talk to.
Yeah, especially the ones that are on the up and up. Like imagine what our buddy Bill Corcoran Jr.
Yeah.
is
Shout
gonna
out Bill
do
on
someday,
the
and
stacks.
you guys already had him on here.
Yeah.
Like those are the moments I think about. It's like how cool is it going to be to have that interview? Like, have you ever gone back and looked at? I've gone back a handful of times and looked at like Joe Rogan episode 1.
Oh yeah, me too.
Like that shit is nuts with his like freaking like Skype like bubble effect on his webcam and stuff. And I think that's so cool. And then, but there are also just so many people like, yeah, some people have to learn that because when you're doing a podcast, you're doing a YouTube channel, you're doing whatever you want it to grow. Some people just do not care for the attention and do cool shit anyway. And there were some guys around here that I had heard on other podcasts that had agreed to do it, like billionaire status entrepreneurs that are like just across the border into New York and stuff. That and then I like follow them on Instagram and they're like hanging out with pro athletes at the Super Bowl and stuff. And I'm like, and these guys are like right next door to you sometimes, and it's
yeah, you
wild.
never know. All you gotta do is just fucking get out there and network. Like, I mean, that was one of the coolest things about doing this podcast is like we get most of our guests through
Other people,
previous
other
guests that we've
Yeah.
done podcasts with. So, yeah, that's definitely the best way to. I think podcasting is really probably the best way to network yourself and your business. It's just it's so fucking good.
Yeah, it's very it's more selfish than I thought it was. I
Yeah.
started to realize too after I was getting all these guests on, I was like, I love this. I don't care if anyone listens.
Oh yeah,
Like I got to talk to you. My first and like longest term client that I still have to this day was a guest on my podcast.
yeah,
Like that's not really how we met. He reached out to me about video editing. Then I found out he was like this crazy cool decorated dude.
Yeah.
And the relationship just grew from there. And then of course, like I was talking to you guys the last time I was here about like he connected me to his coach and then his coach is coaching Michael Chandler and all this type of stuff. And it just like all starts coming full circle and you're like, wow, these are real human beings that are just fucking working all the time. That's what makes them cool.
So how was
They are
that?
just humans at the end of the day. They're just regular people.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, no, that
Kind
that's
of.
cool.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people it's fucking scary to talk to, but like at the root of what it is, it's really just somebody that's in a different position than you that they might have a lot of like a huge following or they might be doing some really cool shit, but it's like it's also at the same time what we're trying to achieve one day. So I like to look at it sometimes like that could just be me like in the future. Like they're not like some crazy high status person just because we deem them to be that way. They really are just a regular person. It's just about connecting with them and doing it the right way.
Well, and a lot of them have been through so much
Oh,
shit,
yeah.
too. You know, that's what I've really started to notice being around, because I've been around some high-performing people, because this client of mine is a coach, and they're all high-performance coaches. That's kind of the niche I landed in accidentally, and it's like I've been down to, like, film his events and stuff, and some of these people are just like I went down to Texas recently, you guys know that, and I stayed in an Airbnb with this guy, and he was an Army Ranger, like, a high-ranking officer, all this type of stuff, and he got out, he retired from the military, and now he's got, I don't know his numbers necessarily and don't want to just like shout everything out either, but probably like high 6 figures to 7 figure company. And he's training MMA. He has a fight tomorrow night,
Holy
his
shit.
4th amateur fight. And so he's just like fucking going all the time. And also the nicest guy on the planet and one of the most helpful people, definitely one of the biggest mentors I've ever had in my life. And they're just go, go, go. And when I went to Texas, it was for his event. And I was like staying with him for a lot of that whole thing. And it's just when you're around someone like that, you're just like, you almost feel bad about yourself. Like I get down there, I'm in the Airbnb, I'm like, I feel like I need to be doing push-ups right now. Like, because you're just going all the time and they're up and they don't miss. They don't fucking miss. Like this guy went to St. Louis actually for an event for Andy Frisella, Small World. And, he was like on his trip to St. Louis. He was up at probably 4 o'clock in the morning. Running around the streets of St. Louis because he runs like 10 miles every morning at 4, no matter where he is or what he's doing. And someone drove, like he got shot at in St. Louis.
Oh my God.
In, like a drive-by. And
St. Louis is no joke, bro.
yeah,
I think that might be the worst city in the United States right now.
St. Louis?
Yeah, I think it is. If you look it up.
But I mean, and like that happened, and he, so like he took cover. I mean, they picked the wrong fucking guy to shoot at. You know, he just kept saying like they're like I didn't have anything to fire back with. But then he took cover. They went by. He like reported it to. It was near like the Arch in St. Louis. He reported it to a security guard or some shit, and then he finished his run. And then like went on about his day and that type of thing, and you know like everyone's freaking out that knows him. He's like posting about it on Instagram and stuff, but it's just like it's that really rugged discipline I've started noticing with people is like they don't miss a workout or a meal or a sales call or whatever the thing is, those are the ones that are winning.
What's it like being around that? Like, how does that help you in like your field doing what you're doing? Like, does it make it easier to like just sit down and grind and just put your time in?
I definitely learned that there are like good clients and bad clients. There are people that are easier to work with. What, you know, because those types of people are also the easiest to like take a knee when you need to.
Yeah.
You know, you have a family member die, you get really sick, and those types of things happen. Like they understand that. And that whole dynamic of working with him was always really different than like the 9-to-5 job. Like you get 100 hours of PTO or whatever, and you're sitting there like trying to calculate when you're going to use your time off and stuff. It's just much more personal, and it is. I mean, they say lead by example, right? Yeah. And just when you're around someone like that all the time, that he sets the standard by living it. You know, there's not. I have not read a bunch of paperwork for any of my clients or anything stating like you must get this amount of sales in a month or this is what we expect. It's just like I'm out here maximizing my capability. Yeah, I suspect you'll do the same. You know, like, please do. Yeah. It just makes you want to do it.
I see. Yeah. What do you think makes those kind of people? Like, what do you think creates those individuals?
A lot of adversity, for one thing. You know, a lot of, I don't know, there's got to be something, like an I've had it moment, I think creates a lot of them, too. Because a lot of, I mean, I had that moment when I dropped out of college and I'm
done with this shit. Like, something has to change.
I was completely broke, had no idea what I was doing. And I spent all of about like a month and a half. Like I couldn't even find like a minimum wage job for like 2 months. And then I did at literal minimum wage for $7.25 an hour and that type of stuff. But I mean, those were probably the first few months of my life because I was an active high school kid like a lot of us are. I was tennis and band were the big two, and I was just like always moving, and I never realized how shitty of a life doing nothing is. You know, because you're like when you're doing homework all the time and you're at practice and you're practicing for music rehearsals or whatever have you, you're always just like, I just want a day off. You know, and that's how most of America is, frankly, is like, I just want my Saturday. That really embedded the thing in me where, like, nowadays, too, I cannot take more than 4 hours of doing nothing. I just can't. Like, if on Saturday, I'll wake up in the morning. I'll maybe, like, go for a drive or something. And then I'm just like, nope, got to go edit something or make a new video for my channel or go for a run. Like, do something.
I agree with you. I think that was kind of an illusion that I share as well. Like, I remember Kevin and I always talk about this. Like, I hate working. Like, I'll go to, like, my 9-to-5 job and I'll hate being there. But then it's like, I get home and I don't want to just do nothing. Like, I want to be busy. I want to have a project. I want to have something that I'm working on. You know what I mean? So I think that whole, like, retirement and, like, being able to just relax is sometimes kind of an illusion, but maybe to certain people, maybe not to everybody.
Productivity is very addicting too, honestly.
Yes,
like once you start doing it and you start realizing how much freaking happier you are when you have, because I've very much so become the guy too that I really don't know much of what's going on like in the world. I do not watch the news whatsoever.
Fuck the news.
Type of person. Yeah, thank you. Watch the Go Getters podcast
fuck
instead.
The news. Watch the Go Getters podcast.
But
easy.
But it's just you start realizing like, oh, if I just like not mind my own business, but if I like focus on the controllables that I have and just keep taking steps forward and help other people that I actually know, just way more fulfilling. Like, there's no doubt about it.
And that's the best way to be productive.
It's kind of weird to me that there's not more people that figure that out.
Oh, yeah.
Relatively soon.
I think people get addicted to like, even like some of the little minor things like you were just saying, like people get addicted to hearing the latest shit that's going on in the world, like the news. People like get addicted to that social media drama and having to go out to your party every week, and people get really addicted to that lifestyle. So I can see how for some people being productive or like always needing something to do or like always working towards something could be intimidating and very scary.
How many crazy successful people have you seen interviews or whatnot that either grew up completely fucking broke for one, you know, that's one, or addicted, like to substance abuse, you know, types of things. That's what it is for a lot of people, and then they need to replace that with something is usually what they end up doing. David Goggins is a great example of that.
Fill that void.
And and so, you know, and he was like addicted to food basically, and then he got addicted to everything but food, and you know, is stretching for hours a day and whatnot,
running marathons every day.
You know, it's like
just savage,
to me, it's a similar concept to what Mr. Beast does too. It's like in just everything, there's like a way to spiral out of control negatively, and there's a way to spiral out of control positively.
Yeah.
You know,
he's a great example of
yeah,
that.
he's a great example of like generosity, and well, generosity really can be just as viral as all the bullshit that Fox News puts in front of you, or CNN puts in front of you, or whoever, whatever other ones are out there nowadays.
And he's so addicted to creating content. Like he's so like you can tell that that's like his driving factor in life is to wake up every day and create the best piece of content that he can create for that day.
I think with the productivity though comes with some delayed gratification though.
Yes.
I think the opposite, like, you know, the pleasurable lifestyle, like scrolling on social media or partying and stuff like that, that kind of satisfies that instant gratification.
Yes.
You know, so it's kind of hard to delay it and then know that this will pay off in the future.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, people are crazy. That's that TikTok mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, on the Mr. Beast thing too, I think that's another one of the things I would say, going back to the question of like, what is it about those people?
Yeah.
Always an obsessive
Oh,
personality.
yes.
And I've always had that. Now mine's always like I'll flip one switch off and the next one on type of thing. But I've always been a kid that like once I get into something, I'm going down every fucking YouTube rabbit hole, trying to figure out how to be the best goddamn thing that I can be. And it's just like I'm not stopping until I get there. Type of shit, and it's weird because that's just led me to having so many like random things that I can do. Like I was really into magic as a kid. I was really into like the Rubik's Cube as a kid, type of thing.
You solve them with your eyes closed, like behind
I'm not quite that good, but I can solve them with my eyes open in front of me.
Yeah.
I think I have a Rubik's Cube somewhere.
We did. That's on my bucket list. I gotta learn how to solve a Rubik's Cube one day.
Where'd that thing go?
I don't know. It's fun. I mean, a little side note tangent. I remember one day I used to work at, like, I used to be a custodian back in the day. And I would just, like, there was times in the summer when I was working that, like, we literally wouldn't have dick to do. And we'd be there for, like, I think my shift was, like, 5 or 6 hours long. I remember the one day I literally sat. I was so bored. And I found a Rubik's Cube in somebody's classroom. And I sat there and I literally tried to solve that shit without, like, looking up any videos or anything for, like, 2.5 hours straight. I just sat there, like, just fucking with it, trying to figure it out, because I've never solved the Rubik's Cube. That's like, it's something I want to do one day.
Bucket list.
Yeah.
Well, I was really into that for a while. I have a little like 2x2 cube, which is like a mini one, and then the standard is 3x3. I was up to a 4x4 at some point. I think I need at least like a cheat sheet to do that one nowadays. And there's like little pyramids and stuff, but I was always just into things like that. And like the more important part, I was always into that. Just like I would start doing something, I'd suck at it, and I just would not stop until I was good at it. Even like one of the silliest ones is I started playing tennis in high school.
Yeah.
I was a baseball kid up until baseball got like a little too political for my liking in high school, and then I switched over to tennis. A lot of my friends played tennis, and it was like people were just busy all the time, and I wasn't good at it. I had never played tennis before in my life, and the amount of just like hours I spent probably my 11th grade year at the tennis courts just hitting serves because I had no one was available to go up there with me, and it's like, how the fuck do you play tennis by yourself, you know? So and I would just be up there with like 3 balls, and I'd hit them over to one side and I'd hit them back over to the other side. That's all I ever did. I did the same thing with golf. I did the same thing with swimming. I did the same thing with ice skating. I played ice hockey for a season, and it's wild. I used to think that was a bad trait, and it's probably one of the traits I have that I'm like the most grateful for now, though.
It could be both, because on one end of the spectrum, like, it's funny you said that. One of my biggest obsessions is like getting really good at something, or like being like very addicted to like.
I was hoping you weren't going to say like meth.
Oh, no. Just like my addiction is like just getting better at things over time, and that can be very like spiraling for some people, or it can be very beneficial for others.
Oh yeah, especially when you've got like I also like take it with a grain of salt because I don't have a relationship. I live alone. Like I have a lot of time and energy to put into just myself right now because I'm in my early 20s, and what better time to do that than then. But I can see for a lot of people too. I've met so many people too that do just similar things or talk to me about mindset, about work ethic, whatever you want to call it. And it's usually right around their mid-30s or their early to mid-30s that they start to figure shit out after they have 2 kids or after they're married or after they're, 7 years into their job that they have these like little bit of bonuses for or whatever because they've been there for 7 years types of things. And that's where people start, or they also get bogged down a little bit by like the sense of regret of like, I wish I would have known about this when I was, like a lot of those people too. Another fun fact about me is that I've never drank an ounce of alcohol in my entire life.
Ever?
No.
Wow.
Well, there's one exception to that. My dad tricked me into it when I was like a 4-year-old.
Wow.
One time.
Check that out.
So, and which was, I later found out intentional because he was like, a 4-year-old will think that this is fucking gross and never do it again.
Yeah.
Case in point.
Wise dad. Yeah, that's a wise dad.
And so, but like, so I've never voluntarily not even announced. And I just, when I start listening to those people or get these clients that are starting to like really gain some traction later in their life, usually quitting drinking is a part of it.
Yes.
And I've heard so many times, like, I wish I would have heard earlier on. Or like this, my one client said to me one time, he was like, I wish someone would have told me how fun it was to not drink.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, no one told me. And honestly, it's not that fun. I wouldn't call it fun. It kind of sucks if you're trying to like date.
It's
some
kind of
early
like
20s man, but
it's a mask people put on. Like, I mean, I'm
sure.
somebody, he's sober too. He doesn't drink or do anything. I will drink, but I don't do it nearly as much as I just turned 21. And most people would think you turn 21, you're going to be getting hammered every day. I drank probably 3 times since I turned 21 in December. But yeah, that's crazy. That's a crazy lifestyle. And it's a mask. Some people really do it to just like block out the shit that really matters, or to feel like they can put it away for a little bit and not have to worry about the actual problems that they're going through.
And I think that's where that rugged discipline comes for a lot of these people too, because they get to a point where they have like a more tangible addiction like that to drugs or alcohol or sex maybe. And they realize how they got there.
Yeah.
Is innocently in most situations, right? Like, oh, I'm just drinking on the weekends.
Yeah, you want to go out and have fun with your friends.
And then you're having one a day all of a sudden. Then you're having 2 a day, and then
then
you
you're going to the
can't
bar
live without it
5
all of a
times
sudden.
week.
Types of thing. And they realize that, and so they realize in that kind of like second phase of their life after they quit it is that one like cold turkey is kind of the way to go. In my opinion, it's super fucking hard, but it's the way to go in a lot of cases. And they realize that they can't let something sneak into their life like that again, even if it's a different addiction or whatever. And then the whole like productivity thing sneaks in, and there you go.
It's like, it's just building a habit. I feel like alcohol is a pretty like harsh one to just quit, because you can have like very negative side effects if you do it. But I think some people are scared to like let go of the habit or the comfort that they have in doing certain activities like that.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of them get replaced, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people turn into runners, or they turn into like just these like business people that work 97 hours a day or something, because they're just replacing their cigarette with a sales call.
Yeah.
Or they're replacing the bottle with a 5K or something, and it's just, and then they just start to really pick up on that, and they're like, and I do think that some people go too far down that route too. I think there is like a very real thing about being masochistic and just really enjoying pain and like thriving off of pain. And I think that's weird, and don't do that. Like, have fun, enjoy your life. My big thing is more of like, do the right things now so that you can live the life you want to later.
And everything needs balance. You don't need to kill yourself every single day. Like, even in like fitness, like, it's a good thing to do in the long term. Yes, absolutely. And that's great for your mind. But like, I think with everything comes balance. You need to have balance in all areas. You can't just you can't go to the gym 7 times a day. Like, there's just a physical reason why you can't do that, because you will start to literally destroy your body after a certain amount of time. That's like the Goggins thing too. Like, he's a hard motherfucker to the point where his knees are bone on bone contact. Like, he doesn't have cartilage or whatever the fuck, tissue, muscle, whatever it is in your knee that like holds everything together. That motherfucker doesn't have that anymore. So it's like,
it's insane to think about.
I think he's one of those examples though, kind of like your friend. Like, I think one of the reasons that he does that is just to prove like it's possible.
Well, he had that I had it moment too. Right? Like, he looked in the mirror and he was 350 pounds or something, and he was like, this is not fucking happening again. And so, and that's probably just racing through his mind, all like almost PTSD, basically.
I wonder if it's like that for him. Like, if that's something he actively thinks about every day, like while he's putting himself through these hard activities, like, fuck, like, I can't go back to that.
I can almost guarantee it is.
Because that got to be a shitty life, man. Like, I've been heavy. Like, I've been heavy, but like, I've never been anywhere near 300 pounds. I couldn't imagine what it feels like to be 350 pounds, that heavy, and then just not doing anything with your life.
Sure can't either. I mean, I've always been the opposite. If anything, I was actually really tiny up until about 10th grade, and then found out that I have issues, and then got medicated for it, and grew to be like at least like semi-average. But yeah, I've never had that problem. I can't gain weight to save my life,
Really?
and I know people hate when I say that, because they're like, I wish I had that. No, you don't. First of all.
Well, no, that's a real problem. I mean, I'm learning that a lot now, because like me, him, my friend Jake, we go to we're a group. We go to the gym very often. We're all like on our own separate like health journeys right now. And I'm realizing that I have more friends that have a hard time putting on weight than friends that have a hard time losing weight. Like I thought my whole life losing, because that was my problem. My problem was always I wanted to lose weight. I never wanted to gain weight. So you just think naturally that's like the harder thing to do is to lose the weight. I don't know why
that is either. Like, do you think they just market like weight loss products more or something, or is that actually the more common problem for people?
I think in America, obesity is definitely a bigger problem than being too skinny. Yeah. But like knowing people that like are really into like physical fitness and like the amount of people I know that are trying to put on weight and have such a hard time doing it and eat like this motherfucker eats like a horse and he puts on like no weight. Yeah. But it's like what he does. It's
quite odd.
To sell. Yeah, it's very odd.
It's quite odd.
And then it's like me, I definitely like I diet very well. I'm not somebody who eats unseasoned fucking chicken breasts and salad with no dressing on it every day. Like I still splurge. Like my chicken got all the seasonings on it, everything. Like I make good food, but like the weight's just been flying off of me. So that's like really all you got to do is just put in.
That's interesting. I like that. I'm like almost the opposite, where I eat like the shittiest diet in the world. I just don't eat much at all. Like I eat like once a day, like maybe like a small fast food meal or something, and it's a wonder I can't gain weight. But
people misuse the idea of like eating healthy foods. Like when people think of eating healthy, they think, oh, I gotta fucking eat like radishes and carrots and fucking I gotta eat raw fucking bull testicles and liver and like that's just not. I mean, I'm sure for some people like that could be beneficial, sure, but like. That's not what I had to do. And maybe I'm just different than other people, but I still basically eat what I want to eat. I'm just way more disciplined with my eating habits. And like when I choose to splurge on like cheat meals, I really only eat one cheat meal every month. So like, I don't know. I think people have a wild idea of being healthy and like eating healthy food.
Yeah. Another thing I think that when it comes to, I mean, health is a good example of this, or fitness is a good example of this, but another one of these mentorship lessons that just like stands out in my brain from the people I've worked with is that the result you want is always on the other side of the thing you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And so I think with a lot of people that I've seen that struggle to lose weight, it's always they either start eating less, but they still eat shitty food, or they start eating better food, but they eat 900 pounds of it every day. Like they just never stop eating. And I'm like, you got to do both and maybe throw exercise in there too. You know, and usually that's what it is where a lot of people I've seen in these coaching programs and whatnot have a breakthrough is the second they realize what the actual thing is they don't want to do. And then they do that.
And that's typically the thing that will solve your problem, like you were saying. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good mixture of both. Like you need to, my false assumption when I was younger and I was trying to lose weight was that you just had to be very consistent and work very hard in the gym. And that's something I've always been in love with. I've always loved going to the gym and lifting and doing all those kinds of things. It's always been for me. And I did that forever, but I noticed like at a certain point, I would just never lose weight, but it's because like I was eating very shitty and a lot of food. So like there's a good happy balance to both of them. You kind of have to have a good balance with your diet and a good balance with your physical fitness. And that's, I think, the best way to gain and lose weight. It works for both. You need a good happy balance of the both. You can't just eat really good and expect to lose a lot of weight with no workout. I'm sure you'll drop some weight, but it won't be like what you're looking for, and vice versa.
Yeah. You got to do something that really hurts. And there's like a lot of programs, so to speak, out there on the internet too that really help with that. Like the 75 Hard is one, and which is Andy Frisella's. And
is that his? That's his thing.
Yeah,
I did 75 Day Hard one time.
Yeah, I've tried it twice and I failed both times. So I'm very ashamed of it. But
I technically failed my first time trying it as well.
I don't even remember like what I did anymore. Like I screwed up the easy parts too, which was just like all the worst. But anyway, there's that one, and then one of my clients actually does what he calls Suffering Saturday. He's been doing it for like 10 years now, which is based on that exact concept I just mentioned. It's like every Saturday he'll sit down like Friday night before or whatever and like write down like what is the thing I'm avoiding doing right now that could like break me through in business and fitness and MMA and whatever it is, and then just like Saturday is like dedicated to suffering and doing that thing that you do not want to do. Like you know, if you're someone that just like is refusing to eat less food, then maybe your Suffering Saturday is fasting for the whole day.
Wow,
you know,
that's a pretty cool idea.
He just does that every single week, just for one day out of the week, and it starts to really kind of just build up that muscle of like, controlling your own body and your own mind and that type of thing.
What a day too! Like that's the day most people look forward to all week.
Right.
Like,
Well,
I get to go drink my beer
design.
this Saturday.
Yeah.
So.
That's very intentional that he did it that way. Although you don't have to do it on Saturday. He's very clear about that too, just because different people. It's on Saturday for those two reasons. One, because it's kind of just like it creates that contrast of Saturday being like the
fuck off day, like I
day for everybody, and also because most people have Saturday off to do it in the first place. Now, if you're like, you're working at a retailer or something where you have like Tuesday and Thursday off for one of those schedules, then maybe do it on a Thursday. That part doesn't matter. But the point is, like, start figuring out that shit that you are not willing to do, and then do that thing. Like for a business person, it could be like I know myself, I'm still like this. Largely, it's like I hate being on the phone.
Yeah.
I hate doing sales calls, and I know that that's like my thing right now. That if I did a suffering Saturday where I just did like 50 sales calls, my business probably explodes that day. Honestly, we'll see if I ever do it.
That's a very cool philosophy for a challenge, man. Because I think that like you can really I think one big beneficial part of that is like recognizing your own holes, like the holes in your game that you can potentially that you want to fix. And like a lot of people avoid that shit too. Like one of my favorite things about, like I was saying earlier, like one of my obsessions is just getting better at things. I love like good, like genuine, honest feedback for like our business and like everything we do, because like I love perfecting things and becoming better in areas that I know I'm not good at. So I don't like avoiding things that I'm not good at. I like to challenge myself with things that I am not good at, because it is just better to master those things, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely good to have to know what's going on in every area of your business. Now, I do think there's definitely a point too to start like hiring people. Like one of the best, every YouTuber says this too, but I did hire a video editor. Yeah. That you
hired a video editor?
Yeah.
Wow, check that out.
Yeah.
The editor needs an editor.
Yeah, like it's like a backlog editor type of thing too. Like if I have 19 projects due tomorrow,
that makes sense.
Then I have a guy that I just pay, and I'm like, hey, get some of these off my plate for me. But it's just the coolest, and that's a great way to recognize your gaps too, because he does something in his edits that I'm like, I didn't know how to do that, and I've been editing for 5 years now. Yeah, and that's how you learn those types of things, and you start to really realize where you suck at stuff is when someone else is good at it.
That's one of my favorite things about editing too. Like I don't know if it happened for you this way, but I loved like one of my favorite things about editing is like creating content a certain way for so long, and then you finally hit a point in creating that content where you're like, I need to make this shit better somehow. So you start like trying a bunch of different ways to like make things brighter.
Like actually getting creative.
Getting creative. And one of my biggest things that I love working with right now is like my thumbnails, because I know thumbnails are so important on YouTube. But it's like my rabbit hole recently has been just sitting on my computer and just editing like the same thumbnail. Like I'll take this, for example, the thumbnail I'm gonna make for this podcast, and like I will sit there and I'll have the initial thing, which would just regularly be the thumbnail I would post with the video, and then I'll copy and paste it a few times, and I'll just try to toy with it a bunch of different ways to make it look better. And like I've literally just been doing that the last like month, and it's been working. Like we've been changing fonts, we've been changing designs, we've just been making things look better here and there, and I love doing that. That's one of my favorite parts of the whole creative process for like
you probably start to develop a better eye for design.
Yeah, definitely.
After a while too. That was something that I really sucked at, actually, was like I've never been a person that like I've never been one of those like artistic people in the sense of like I could look at something and recreate it. Like I can't draw or paint or do any fine art worth of shit. But even like when I first got into like actual videography, because I was an editor for a while and like never picked up a camera. I just took whatever footage was given to me and edited it. And then recently I've started like really diving into the videography thing and learning about lighting and doing like color is a big thing. I don't do a lot actually as an editor. I don't fuck with colors too much. And all that, more just kind of the look type of thing to it. And I just never, I'm too sciencey brain that I always thought that like having the exposure set, there's like a specific number on the little thing there, like 1.2 is going to look the best. Yeah. And I had to like really learn to just trust my eyes and like take a step back for a second with thumbnails, with videos, with everything, and just be like, does that look good? Yeah. And then trust my judgment afterwards, like
it's all subjective of like what you're creating. So like if it's your project, like for example, if you're editing something that's for you, only you, there's obviously people that know more than you, but you know best in terms of what you want for your project. Right. So like some simple like copy and paste settings won't always really help you for what you're trying to do, because it might not be the theme or the style that you're going for, or it might not give off the right vibe. Like, I don't know. I think it's definitely best left in your hands to like figure out those things.
It's good to have a brand too. I think branding is so huge and like a mostly overlooked part when you're talking about people trying to learn marketing, they're trying to learn the finance side, they're trying to learn the sales side. is that having a brand, it doesn't really matter what the brand is as long as you have one.
Yes.
You know? And so, because mine, that's something that I've grown pretty well over the course of time, where I got to like this whole getup that I have now, right? And I paid like $40 for this logo to be designed and whatnot, but I had to like really narrow in and say like I'm a very minimalist type of person, so I do a lot of the monochrome, like blacks and grays and whites with orange as my color splash, so to speak. And then, but you just had to, it's really easy to get into the type of thing and look at a brand like Nike, for example, and be like, I really like the way that looks, and then look at a brand like 1990s Nickelodeon, which is like the opposite thing. Still works fine, but it's super colorful and bright and like bouncy and like almost makes you want to throw slime around and stuff. And the Nike's like very clean, and just a little freaking check mark on a shoe that costs $9,000. And it's just like, you got to pick something that's your thing, you know? And like, I think that's what On the Stacks has done very well. That's really changed. And I'm starting to like really pick up your guys' brand as well with the Go-Getters, and I see it and I'm like, that doesn't jive with my brand, and I'm like, that's the fucking point. Like, it's their brand.
That's how it all started too. Like for me initially, like I wanted to do a podcast initially, so don't get this part wrong, but like when I initially started, the idea of the Go-Getters was like a brand. It was literally just a page on Instagram. I wanted to see if I can like blow up and make it something cool. So it all just started as like literally just like what I wanted it to be was like just us grinding, like us doing things like lifting or doing the business and like just whatever we were doing at the time. And then it transitioned into doing this. But early on, like I realized that I think I wanted the brand to be like very flashy. I wanted it to be very colorful. I wanted it to be very vibrant. Like I wanted to give like a really good feeling to people. Like when you seen it, you knew what you were looking at, basically, if that made sense. It was just like, I wanted to make it very flashy, very colorful, very vibrant. And I think like that's one thing.
Well, you want the people to feel something, and you want there to be a feeling to be connected to with your brand, right? And I think mine that's always picked up on me for a lot of people is just if I see a brand that's really based around, I mean, I have my like core values that I go by and whatnot, but I've noticed I also really I like cleanliness, which is an interesting one that you don't hear a lot. Or almost like purity in a way, which is why I think I like the minimalistic type of brand so much. I've never been a bigger fan of like all the knickknacks and the like different colors and that kind of thing.
That makes a lot of sense for what you do, though. It makes a lot of sense for like production and photography and editing. It's like a very fine thing, if that makes sense. So I definitely makes a lot of sense in terms of like branding that.
Yeah,
I think the brand is interesting. Like, Kevin and I think, are still trying to figure out like what we want our brand to be.
Yeah.
Right.
So what do you think? Like, how do you interpret the Go-Getters brand from an outside?
I interpret it as a brand that's still figuring out what they need their brand to be.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been trying to figure it out, to be honest, but it's coming together. Now this is because, like I said, I have to get out of my own way of the whole like, well, that's not how I would do it. And it's like, no shit, Justin, that's not how you would do it. But you guys, I don't know, you guys are doing it like a little bit more off the wall type of thing. I feel like where it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of I like these flags and
Thanks.
I recognize like that one. That's about it, honestly, and America, of course, but. I don't know. I think you guys are. I think what you guys need to work on, frankly, is just like what are those feelings or those values that I want people to instantly connect to when it's a thing. And I don't know if you guys ever heard this. Seth Godin has a little clip of him talking about branding where he brings up a really good point about he takes Nike as a brand and Hilton, like the hotels. So you guys familiar enough with Hilton? And he talks about he's like, if Nike were to start a hotel. In your mind, can you picture what that would look like?
Yeah.
You definitely can, right?
Yeah.
You can picture what the building would be like. There'd be like a
Sleek
basketball
and modern,
court in there and that type of thing. Now, if Hilton were to make a shoe, can you picture exactly what they would do? Not as much, right? No. So, and that's kind of branding in a nutshell, right? Is that you want people to know what you're about. And I don't necessarily want to say what your look is, but that type of thing. Like if you were to create anything, would people know what you're going for or what's behind it?
That'd be a tough ass hotel. I'd go to the Nike hotel.
Nike hotel.
Right?
I know it's definitely counterintuitive, but I think part of the thing I love about my whole like branding and marketing and business journey so far is that we decided to go the non-traditional route and not have a niche. Like I know most people say like
I like that too.
Like branding 101 is you need to have a niche. Like you you need to have your target audience, like you need to have this set in stone so that when people come to your channel, they know what they're coming for. One of my initial ideas is that I don't want to do that because I think you limit yourself to only a certain group of people that would care to watch your show.
Put yourself in a box.
Yeah, if it was a podcast anyways. Like for us, we have like oddly the widest, weirdest, quirky variety of people that watch our podcast.
That's the brand.
And yeah,
those are the
that's
words
like
I was
what it
trying
is.
to find.
But it's like, I don't know like what is within all of those people that like all draw them to this thing. I think it's like very similar with what is in us that brought us to doing it. It's like, I think it's people that like don't really know the path and they kind of just want to start somewhere and just go along for the ride and just see where the fuck it goes. Go get, like, that's like what it is, I think. Like not knowing what to expect.
No, you're onto something there. I mean, that's why I like stuck to it after I found out about it. However, I did through Bill probably.
Yeah.
But because it's that thing too. You want people that come to it to feel a thing.
Yeah.
You said you're 21.
Yeah.
Right. You're
22.
presumably about the same. And I mean, so I was 21 when I started podcasting too, and I saw a lot of that. Like I was a kid in my dorm room with this like exact mic setup almost, and I didn't have a Rodecaster. I wasn't cool like you guys.
That was the first thing I bought.
I had a computer with like Audacity on it or something.
Actually, that's how we started. Me and my friend JJ one day just in my backyard. We were
like, my first podcast was on my phone. Actually,
really?
I was telling you, I was telling you about that. My friend was in town like visiting, and we were like, you know what? Let's just do it. And I had the Anchor app on my phone. And it has a little record thing on it. We just pressed it and made the world's shittiest podcast and then uploaded it. And then it just all grew from there. But it's like, I felt that when I saw your guys' podcast for the first time. And I was like, I love more people trying to do this thing. And I like that about Bill's too. When I first found out about his, I was like, oh, this is finally starting to become a thing.
You can't, like, I think one major misconception in, like, doing a creative endeavor is thinking that you need to, like, copy or bite off other people to be successful. Like, you really just genuinely got to do it your own way and figure it the fuck out, or people will see holes in your game. They'll know you're not being authentic. And I think authenticity is one of the biggest things in content creation, because if you're creating content that's not you and it's not your content, like, I think it'll really shine and people will really get that vibe while they're watching or consuming your content. Like, this motherfucker doesn't really mean or think the shit that he's saying. He's kind of just following a format.
Like, that's a really easy trap to fall into.
Yeah.
Too, though, you know, it's like, you would not believe how many podcasters are trying to be the second-rate Joe Rogan, the second-rate Dave Ramsey, the second-rate Andy Frisella, the second-rate, you know, who have Full Send.
Yeah.
You know, that's another big one that's getting ripped off like left and right nowadays. Impulsive is getting ripped off like left, like in terms of the format. Yeah. You know, and it's just like, don't do that. Now there is something to say about too, like, success does leave clues. Yeah. You know, and if you can learn from someone, I found that to be like a really helpful thing too with a lot, is that if you can find someone that's like a step ahead of you instead of only trying to learn from the people that are like mega successful, like we're better off trying to learn from On the Stacks about podcasting right now than trying to learn from like Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's definitely something, and that's like a misconception I want to clear up about what I just said too. You could definitely find things about other podcasts that, like, you don't necessarily need to mimic in any way, but to learn from. Like, we've learned from so many podcasts. Like some of the biggest ones you just named are like some of our biggest influences in starting and like trying new things, is like the Rogans, the Full Sends out there. Mike Tyson has a really good podcast. Like Friedman has a really good podcast. Like all these people, Tim Dillon, like they got these dope ass podcasts that I'm very interested in because of the people that they talk to, like the caliber at which they can communicate with people, the comedic value that some people bring, the intelligent aspect that people bring to the table. You could take all these things, and also how people, like, one big thing you could take from other people in content creation is like how people come up with titles or designs or thumbnails, or how they structure their show. Like, what segments do they do? What kind of, are they doing giveaways? Are they doing whatever? Like, you could get a good gauge for what you can do by seeing what other people do. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to copy it at all. You just got to you just got to learn from people.
I have a whole book on copywriting that I'm reading for the second time right now, just about how to write better write better everything, really. Yeah. And it's just like the first time you read that book about copywriting, you're like, oh, there's like a job to this. Yeah. You know, there's something to this, and there's different ways. So, and I'm also very into that kind of on the side of everything. I do listen to a lot of like psychology related type of stuff too. So yeah, that's cool.
So, well, branching off that, I mean, you're a man of many hats. One thing I realized when like going through your pages is like, and I know you touched a little bit on this stuff earlier, but like, What's with the magic? What's with that? How'd you get into that?
That's funny. That's really old. That's like 7th grade, maybe.
Yeah.
And it was just like a phase. I like to imagine we all had those as kids. Maybe not. Maybe I just had phases. I got interested in a lot of crap. I think it's actually largely because I'm an only child too.
Yeah.
And so I was just like entertaining myself for my entire childhood. But yeah, that was just a phase where I don't know, I like saw Chris Angel or something, and I bought his magic kit, and I needed something to do with myself all the time and something to get good at, and I was not good at Call of Duty, so I had to try other things.
I feel like every young boy had that magic phase at one point.
I did have a Call of Duty phase though.
Yeah.
I still wasn't good at it, but
I still love Call of Duty.
I had a social Call of Duty phase.
Yeah. I think like part of the reason why I'm so tough-skinned today and like why I don't let a lot of shit bother me was from those Call of Duty hobbies back in the day. That's something I say to my brother often, like you didn't have to go through them Black Ops 2 lobbies. Like the amount of times I got called a bitch, my mom got called a hoe. Like the amount of times like you hear all of that stuff like on Call of Duty, like that will weather you as a young child.
Shit builds character.
Yeah, it definitely does. I wonder what that's like for kids these days with like fucking like TikTok and like fucking Instagram. Like what the.
It's not a good thing, I don't think. But
I don't think. I mean, it's beneficial in some ways because you get exposed to the world and you get to see certain people that are just assholes for what they really are, but at the same time I think it can be very self-destructive for a young mind. Like thank God we had Facebook, like we had and we were like the first generation that had like Snapchat and like Instagram and those things, but at the time they were not what they are now. So
they were kind of better.
Way better. I mean, I remember like Snapchat.
I remember playing Yoville on Facebook like way back in the day.
Yep, those are the days playing fucking Pawn Stars at Corey's house.
Dude, I was really into Pawn. I was really into hardcore Pawn for a long time.
There was the that just sounds funny, but I remember all the Facebook games, man. Like the fucking what was that? What was Addicting Games? That's what it was, right? The shit back
on that
the,
in school. That's what you did in school.
Those are the fucking days. But I wonder what that's like for the kids coming up today.
Honestly, that probably weathered me more than Call of Duty. It's like Mario Kart on the bus on the way to school. Those kids were mean.
The DS games, remember that?
The Picto Chat and the fucking oh my god, what was that shit? Was it Picto Chat?
Picto Chat, yeah.
Yo, those are some days.
Builds
man.
character, bro.
It does. I mean, it's developmental for a young individual to go through those kinds of things. It scares me to see like what those new social media platforms do to kids these days, though, because I have a 14-year-old brother, so I know like he goes through some of that shit, and I just wonder what that group and generation is going to be like when they're like our age.
I see some kids nowadays too. I feel like they're like hardcore addicted to video games, which is weird to me. Like I think I might have gone through a phase where I was on it like too much, but I don't know. Maybe I just was. Maybe people my age were looking at me then. They were like, dude, you're addicted to that game. But I was never, like, you couldn't get me to come inside as a kid was a bigger problem. I'd be outside all the time.
I was super addicted to video games.
I was playing wiffle ball against myself until like 10 p.m. and stuff. Like, so it was, I guess that was just kind of a good trait that I had too that saved me. And I mean, I didn't have an iPad as a kid. Yeah. You know, I didn't have a phone really until I was in 8th grade or whatever type of thing. And so it was just like, I don't know, that never struck me as much. I'd go outside and play sports. The only reason I had video games was because I played MVP baseball 2005 after it was too dark to be in the yard playing wiffle ball. Like,
you know, I was a fiend for the game when I was younger. That's all I had. I was similar, like where I didn't get a phone until I was like probably in like 5th grade. So my early years, all I did was play my PlayStation, man. I was a Call of Duty wizard back in my day.
I'm glad you were. I sucked.
Yeah, no, that was my shit when I was
I was a Call of Duty liability. That's what they called me.
They didn't pick you up on the team. You were last pick.
I was weirdly good under pressure, but I wasn't under pressure that often.
That's fucking funny, man. But yeah, I mean, hey, it's gonna be it's gonna be a new era. I guess we all got to go through that at some point. As like the new kids coming up, like with the new technology that they have now, and what that's gonna be like in the future.
I don't know if I had as much of like a mind to think about this sort of thing early on either, but it's like it's weird to think of how like capitalism plays a role in tech and gaming nowadays too, and it's kind of it can be a bad thing. And a lot of like when I see the numbers for Roblox. How much money they're pulling in. That's like the biggest kids game now. Billions of dollars, too. And it's like, that thing scares me. I was sure as shit never a kid that got a hold of my parents' credit card number and just started, like, ordering stuff. Yeah. Because that was literally impossible. Like, the line wasn't there. But that type of thing scares me.
You could
because
even go ahead.
I think it affects the parents. Like, it affects the whole household. And then that's almost like that spirals out of control in the wrong direction, too. Yeah. It's like the parents end up in a financial situation. Then the kid grows up in a household that's just nothing but stress. Yeah. And I don't know.
I just completely lost my train of thought. What I wanted to say there. Oh, no, wait.
Roblox kills households.
Yeah, it does.
That's the title of the episode.
Yeah.
Roblox.
That's hilarious. No, I was going to say, though, like.
Probably good SEO if you put Roblox in the title.
Definitely. Yeah, it probably is. No, I mean, it's very reflective. It's funny you said that because this is what I was just about to say. It's very reflective in YouTube views, too. Like, if you ever go to YouTube Kids and look at the fucking videos and the outrageous number of views that every kid's channel gets, that's like.
Watches?
Huh?
Isn't that what Cam watches?
Yeah. Well, yeah, he'll watch it. Bro, they watch the creepy shit these days. Like,
it's market research.
I'm into, like, believe me, I love horror movies. Like, me and him growing up. I don't know if you've ever heard of Mr. Nightmare. I doubt it. But, like, motherfuckers like that. Shout out Mr. Nightmare on YouTube. You ever see that? Yeah, one day we got to. But, like, granted, I do love that shit. I have a passion for, like, eerie shit. Like, I don't know. It's just a good feeling. I don't know why. I love it. But the videos that the kids watch nowadays, like, them shits are creepy. Like, my nephew was watching his video right before I left, and like these two guys that I know are wild popular on kids YouTube that were posting this video of them, like they had to run around this indoor playground with like nobody else there, like it's all dark and eerie, and they're being chased by this green guy with like really weird teeth, like just walking like this around. It's so creepy. I don't know why they're all so into that shit.
That scares the shit out of me too. I didn't think about that, but I have seen a lot of those posts from like a lot of people my age are like starting to have kids now, and I get a lot of mom related posts and they're being like, pay attention while your kids are watching on YouTube, because who the fuck is making this content? And they're just like putting it out there, and there's always some sort of agenda to push. It's just weird freaking nonsense that we're going to be seeing Netflix documentaries about in 10 years, where these people are putting out like just like murder scenes in their kids shows and stuff. And then you've got the whole like, you know, Disney starting to get like the kind of woke agenda type of thing too that people complain about and thing. And it's like it's hard to just have content anymore without that somehow being a part of it, even if that's not a part of it or your intention. Someone's gonna decide for you what side you're on and then argue with you, and then it's a mess.
It's definitely like a jading thing to think about. Like I'm sure most content creators that like make content for kids, like most of them, I don't want to generalize, but I feel like most people still do it out of a way to just make money, because I mean, it is a job, obviously. But like, I feel like most of the times when you see like those grown adults that make these like children videos, like maybe because I'm older and I create content, like I can see through it, but like you can tell that they're not genuinely interested in doing those things. They just know it gets a fuck ton of views, so they just do it. And like they're putting on these happy smiles and these fake dances and shit. And you always got to imagine like they're really just playing to the psychology of young, like innocent ass kids that really don't know any better, frankly. Yeah.
People have no integrity, no character. Yeah. And, you know, one of the biggest glitches, like, in the human race, I think, is that fear will drive attention more than anything. Yeah.
That's the news thing.
No doubt about it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, why humans are wired that way is well beyond me, but it's just like...
It's a survival thing, I think, right?
I mean, that makes sense if you want to, you know, freaking, like, bear is coming at you. And, you know, you're like, oh, shit, gotta run. And then you're on high alert, and it starts releasing all the chemicals into your brain and whatnot. But it sucks that that's the way it is, and it sucks that the worst thing we have to worry about nowadays, a lot of us, is the news, because we're sitting on the couch and, you know, sitting in air conditioning from 9 to 5, and then going home and sitting on the couch, and that's where we get that like we don't have to fight for food or any of that type of stuff to get all that coursing through our veins, so we have to turn to freaking murder kid shows.
Yeah, me and him just did a thing today where we just went and like unfollowed like all the bullshit accounts on like social media that we follow, just to like stay in the loop with certain things. And I think that can be extremely beneficial for certain people to just like, you don't necessarily need to do, because he and I will talk about all the time, like the addiction to social media. I think everybody in some way who uses social media has like an addiction to social media in some way. Yeah. For me, I don't think it's really bad, because I'm genuinely like never on my phone. If I'm on my phone, I'm like in the bathroom or like at work in my downtime. And I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think everyone that's on it is addicted to it in some sense. And that's like probably the biggest vice I have right at the moment.
Yeah.
Honestly, is the doom scrolling, and I try to limit it as much as I can. Like, I don't know if you guys noticed doing your research, but like on my Instagram, I'm at 100 followers or following, like all the time, and that's super. And that's not by coincidence. That's because I got to 100, and now every time I want to follow someone new, I'm like, all right, I got to get rid of somebody.
It's good to take that detox.
Yeah, no, it really is. I have gone through. I will do that almost every like 3 months or so. Just like delete the apps altogether on my phone, so I can like only access it on my computer and that type of thing. But that goes back into the Suffering Saturday too. Is that it gives you that kind of like cortisol rush almost when you're doing. Or I've seen you guys are doing into the cold plunge trend. That's going on right now.
Yeah, the cold plunge. We were gonna do one
You want to
today.
get in there after the pod?
No,
It's not even full.
Not my sweatpants, but
we had to empty it out and clean it.
But I've been seeing a lot of that, dude. And it's that same concept, though, right? It's like people don't have anything that's making them suffer. That's making them, go on high alert and get into survival mode. And that's what the news does for them. It just keeps like fucking feeding them that shit. And so here we are.
Yeah, that's the shit people shy from, man. But I think, like, if you're going to take any lesson from today, you got to simulate some kind of suffering. Because, like, just doing nothing and fucking just scrolling on Instagram and getting fed this bullshit that they just want you to succumb to some kind of ideology or whatever. Like, you got to just go through hard shit, simulate hard shit in your day-to-day life so that, like, when you hear the latest piece of news that some bullshit's going on, you just brush it off because you really don't care and it doesn't really affect you. And, you just got to fucking simulate chaos. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and you'll stop getting mad at, like, the apples being, like, 4 cents more than the sticker said at the store and stuff like that, too. Like, those people drive me fucking insane. It's like, do you not have better things to worry about than...
Yeah. No, typically if you run into somebody who's just very mad or upset or complains about things all the time, like they typically don't have like the hardest shit that they got to do in their day, or they're not a very structured person and they kind of just like to bitch about things because there's nothing really hard happening in their life. So or
there's something really hard happening that they haven't even like realized yet.
Some people are faced with the hard shit and then they just don't do anything about it, and then it makes them bad people.
A lot of that too is like the miserable old man whose wife effectively left him like 15 years ago and is still just in the marriage for some reason though, and they don't talk to each other and type of thing. And
that's that.
Then they just go
coming dear.
You succumb to the suffering, and then you got to live there every day, even though you fucking hate it. That's a sad reality.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of too. I mean, that's that not doing or. The result you want being on the tough conversations, the thing you don't want to do.
Yeah.
I find that that's a big one for people that are running businesses. There's tough conversations with their employees, their clients, their whoever. Yeah. Or it's in relationships a lot too. I mean, there's a lot of marriages out there that are one hard conversation away from fixing a lot of problems.
It's a lot. I mean, I know it's a lot easier said than done, but like that point of like having those uncomfortable conversations is so important. Like the amount of times he and I will sit up here and just come to like game-changing revelations with our whole like empire that we're trying to build here, and like shit that we thought we were doing right, but like we come to find out like maybe our minds or our hearts are in the wrong place and we need to get better here and we need to do better in this area. Like that's so important. You got to have those conversations. You really do.
Yeah, it makes you so much better. It's weird. It's almost like magic.
Yeah.
Like that's how I learned most of this shit, honestly, was someone sitting down with me and being like, you are a moron in this aspect. And being like, you're kind of right.
You're potentially right. So how can I fix that? How can we get better in this regard? And those are those conversations you got to have, even with yourself sometimes. Like I know it's harder to do with yourself because you can cloud your own judgment. Like you can know something to be true, but you won't actively take the steps in doing it because of whatever personal reasons you have. So that's why it's really good, I think, to have a partner in your endeavors. Like, not necessarily just a business partner. It could be a relationship partner or anybody. It's good to bounce the ideas off of one another, because you might think something is very true or you need to like do this or you need to do that, but then you give those ideas to somebody and they'd be like, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah,
like,
that's another one of the things that a lot of people, like one of the best things you could do for yourself is realize you're a moron.
Yeah. And you don't have all the answers. If you did, you wouldn't be in the position that you're in.
Because I mean, I think that's kind of been the biggest thing for me in high school was like, the two big things that have changed for me a lot is like I was kind of that like a right all the time kind of person. I kind of still am, but a lot more sarcastically. And but like an emotional intelligence thing was a I just had zero emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And that was one of the big things I was talking about. Like one of my clients, we did a podcast together one time, and we just we hung up the mics. We took our headphones off, and he was like, "Are you aware that you have no emotional intelligence whatsoever?" And I was like, damn, dude.
It could be harsh.
Rip off the Band-Aid. And he has super high emotional intelligence too, which is probably why he knew. And he's so fucking good at that. It's wild at knowing what's going to affect people and how to handle each specific person that he talks to, and knowing everybody's either are you the type of person that needs a punch in the gut or a pat on the back? He always says type of thing. And I've come to learn that I'm the type of guy that's motivated by a punch in the gut.
Yeah.
Okay, you pat me on the back, I'm like, cool, thanks, and then don't do anything. You fucking punch me in the nose, and then my obsessive personality kicks in, and I got to figure out how to do the thing that I really suck at. And I mean, that's just moved mountains for me too, though, realizing that, because I started to realize other people have actual feelings and actual shit going on in their life. And if my first reaction to everything they say isn't "you're stupid," and instead is "why do you think that?" and then actually trying to understand why they think that, it's a world of difference.
You got to take a good path in trying to figure out those things in other people. That was one big misconception I had early on in my life, is that the way I thought, other people thought the same way. And I just don't think that that's true. I think everybody has their own outlooks or reasons as to why they think certain things. And you kind of just have to play it by ear. You got to get a good feel for the situation and really play to their needs. I think it's you can solve somebody else's problems better than they can solve their own problems, because they're so jaded by their own bullshit, something like what we're talking about, or I think from an outsider perspective, it's way easier to help somebody solve their problems. You just have to go about finding the right way to do it.
Yes, and they have to want to do it. I mean, that's a big part of it too. The whole, you can lead a horse to water, can't make them drink.
Yep.
There is that aspect to it, and then there's the influence aspect to it, where it's you actually have to approach it the right way. Don't attack people, use I statements if you're talking negatively, and talk about them if you're talking positively. All these little types of things that I've learned about leadership across the way. They do just make such a huge difference, and they make your life so much more peaceful.
Yeah.
I think is the right word, because you just, all of a sudden, you stop getting mad every time you commute because someone cut you off.
Yeah.
Because instead of being like, oh, this fucking idiot cut me off, blah, 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 you're just you know what? Maybe they're trying to get to the hospital right now.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they're blowing by everybody over the interstate. Or maybe they just got a phone call that their grandmother is in hospice and on her last few minutes type of thing. Or maybe they are a moron. And if they are, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah. It's therapeutic to see shit from other people's perspective, because it really puts what you're going through in perspective. Maybe what I'm dealing with really isn't that hard, and other people have it way harder than me. So if you can realize that, and realize it in other people, say you were saying, somebody who's treating you badly or somebody cuts you off on the highway, you're right, maybe that person really is just having a worse day than you are, and you really just got to take it for what it is. At least you're not that person. You don't have to go through that, and you can just, I don't know, be at peace. Boys, I really got to piss. How you guys feeling?
I'm feeling all right. I'm just getting started.
All right, boys. So I'm going to run and piss quick. If you guys want, we can take a pause.
Yeah, let's take a quick pause. I got to piss too.
But yeah, no, that's definitely a big problem of mine that I have with podcasting, is that typically from time to time, and obviously it is true now because of what just happened, I fucking brain fart, and my train of thought will crash very often. And it's one of the most annoying parts of podcasting is when you have a very valid point that you're trying to make, or a very valid feeling or something you're trying to convey, and then you're getting there and
and then where'd it go?
Boom, you crash. And then it's so fucking spiraling to try to get yourself back to that point, and you fucking start to feel the pressure of not being able to find it, and it just fucking sucks. I hate that.
It kills conversations a lot. Yes. You're just I blah, 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 and I forgot where I was going with that. And okay, so here we are. Someone else has to pick a new topic now to talk about, I guess, or whatever. And then I've dealt with a lot of that. I still deal with a lot of that, because I produce new podcasts for other people, and it's just a thing that everyone goes through.
What's that like? I mean, obviously don't say any names, I don't want to get you in trouble, but are you ever editing or producing for somebody that you're just fuck, this is awful, this is hell?
I've been there before. I would say none of my long-term clients are usually like that, because they're usually working with me too on more of a I almost like embed coaching into like if you're editing with me, like I'll give you tips and pointers and tell you where you suck and where you don't, that type of thing. And a lot of them take the feedback very well. I will get like kind of just these like offshoot videos of maybe like a bank or something. Some older gentleman at the bank like tried to do a screen record of like how to use a new software or something, and they'll start over like 90 times in the video, and they're like, oh, he's wanting to cut it, like find the best take. I'm like, dude, I'm not watching you say this 90 times. I'm either picking the first one if it was all right or the last one if it was all right, and then cutting out the rest of the time that you wasted of your own. It's not going to waste mine. And but I have had it's mostly been that type of thing, like people trying to be too perfect for the camera, or someone that you can just tell has never been on camera before and still has that kind of just prim and proper type of like they think they have to be a newscaster because there's a camera in front of them, and it's like just be a person, just talk.
What was that quote you said earlier about perfection and performance?
I said that perfection is the enemy of progress.
Oh yes, okay, yeah, no, I really agree with that, because that's like what stopped us from the longest time to like pushing the button sooner and just starting to upload is like we wanted everything to be perfect. And definitely like even now, like we've been doing it for so long, obviously we've gotten so much better, but perfect is, I don't think you really ever get perfect really at anything.
No.
Let alone at the start.
Yeah. Done is better than perfect. That's for sure. And there's also, you know, good is the enemy of great too, though. So there's a lot of people that get to a point where they're good and then they just kind of just plateau right there and never become great. They don't get through that. That's usually where they hit that freaking thing that they're avoiding. And then
you need that consistency, because you'll go a very long time without no viewers or like not a lot of viewers. So you have to like really just start somewhere. Like you're never going to produce that perfect first episode.
You need to have a reason to do it other than those viewers. Like that's probably what pisses me off the most is when I get a client that thinks that I'm going to be like the magic bullet fix to them getting viewership or them getting more of, you know, more bang out of their marketing dollars or whatever the case is. And I'm like, listen, I can make you a good view or a good video. If you suck, you suck. Yeah. You know, trash in, trash out type of thing. And it's just like, I'm not like a video wizard that can just like wave a wand and do a thing. And that's become such a huge part of it too, because I start getting on the technical side, like I'll get a new podcast and there'll be like 3 different camera angles that are all at different frame rates and they're not even the same brand of camera and all this type of stuff. And I have to explain to these people, like, you can't just like go on Upwork and pay someone $20 per video and like expect all of that to just be fixed. You still have to put effort into it. You still have to kind of know what you're doing. And so
that's definitely a bad misconception with people that get in this game of like creating content, is just doing it to build an audience and like to just get a lot of viewers or to get a lot of subscribers. It's very, I think, counterintuitive. And similar to like what I was talking about earlier, how like people can tell like the authenticity of what you're trying to do. I think people can easily tell, and any of us can go on YouTube right now and click on a video where you could tell the motherfucker just wants you to click on their video so they get paid. Like where they hop on, you could tell they got the fake charisma. Like, what's going on, guys? It's fucking Toby back here with another fucking Minecraft, like whatever, like however those motherfuckers be doing. But you could tell most of the time when somebody's being very inauthentic and just doing it to get paid off YouTube, which I don't think it's
scary thing is that sometimes it works.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of time it works, sadly, but it's a sad reality for people when that's what you're trying to do and it doesn't work, because I think like the slow grind for this, like this type of business, is always the better route to go. Because
for sure,
it'll feel way better in 10 years when you hit 10 million subscribers than if you hit 10 million subscribers in less than a year and that fan base dies. It's like the overnight sensation thing. Like most overnight sensations typically don't last a very long time. Well, it's like,
you know, too, just on a very practical level, because you make all the mistakes during the first 10 years when you've got nothing to lose. That's kind of the freaking point. You know, and that's what JRP Daily ended up being for me. I mean, I'll straight up say, like, I had an average audience size of whatever of 3 people for that whole year, you know, that would listen to that. And I was like, wow, this kind of sucks, but I didn't know anything at the same time, you know, and hindsight, I'm glad that no one listened to it because I was a moron. I was saying stupid shit. It literally sounded bad from an audio perspective and that type of thing. And then it's just like, okay, so you keep going and you get better at it and you do another thing. And I probably had like 12 podcasts at this point that have all just come and gone throughout that whole time.
Yeah. It's so much better to be focused on the product too, like actually what you're producing, than worrying about like what the people that are watching are going to think or playing. Like I definitely think there's something to like catching the eye of the people that you want watching your podcast or playing to your audience, you obviously have to be creating content that they like or they wouldn't consume it. But only focusing on what people want to watch, like you're also narrowing yourself like in a weird box where you don't really get, like, I know so many YouTubers that narrowed themselves in such a tight box that they're so scared of stepping out of that box because they don't want to lose viewers. They don't want this video to drastically get less views than their typical content would. Or
scared of the algorithm. Another thing I'm big on, this is similar to the small or big fish in a small pond type of thing, but it's like there are two people that kind of come into it. There are people that are trying to appease the algorithm, and then there are people that are trying to appease the actual humans that are watching the content. And like that's like Mr. Beast's lane. Honestly, and he said it before in a bunch of interviews, and I love when he says this. Is like, if you stop focusing on trying to appease the algorithm, like the algorithm just shows people what they want to see. So focus on showing people what they want to see. Forget the algorithm. SEO for a second. There's a place for it. I get that, but you know, like just. That's not the thing. That's how you get those like 50,000-ish follower channels, subscriber channels, and you just kind of drop off there because you've been doing the same thing for the same 50,000 people, and you're scared to not do it because the algorithm keeps showing it to those people, and that's how you never get beyond that. And so there's a quote by Zig Ziglar that's kind of played a huge role in my life too, or at least made me kind of realize how things work a little bit better, which is that you can get anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. You know, and so when you really just change that perspective and you're just, you know, never outshine the master, like just how can I help you? Things start to work.
That's the reverse. That's the reverse famine mentality. It's like, that's like something that's very big in podcasts. It's like, we have you on the show not to get anything out of you, just because we want to pick your brain and learn a few things. Like it's so like beneficial in that way.
Good, because there's nothing too good out of me. So.
and as likewise with most people too, like we don't, that's like one thing that we really don't do is we don't just have people on to like what could we get out of doing this episode, or how many views could we get if we bring this person on? It's like, no, we just want to fucking sit down and have a conversation. If people want to watch it, they will. And if they don't, they don't. It is what it is. I mean,
that's why I changed my whole structure too. We're doing the little collab here too, where I'm going to have a video on my channel. And I've realized that works a lot better when you're trying to pitch yourself as a guest on podcasts. Like, hey, I will make a video for you. In exchange for doing a podcast with me.
So what are you going to do with that? Like, how does, what's
a great question.
What's the idea behind that?
I mean, it's really just to promote you guys at the end of the day, almost like a commercial for go-getters, I guess, because it's just, and it's really an excuse for me to like have, not an excuse, but a method for me to have more content, because I haven't been posting like as consistently as I would like to be, largely just because I can only sit in my own office and talk about so many things, or I can only do so many editing tutorials and whatnot. So I was like, what's a thing I can do to get other people involved? Because I'm not a people person. That's kind of my suffering Saturday would be like, go shake the hand of 100 people, because I hate doing that type of shit. And so I was like, how do I start getting more people involved, and how do I help them? And so that was just like the first thing that came to mind of my skill set of what I can actually do to help people. Is like, okay, well, how about we just like trade these off, you know? And I got really sick of, I've been in a lot of like the Facebook groups and stuff that just trade off podcast interviews. And I think that that's kind of, you're kind of suppressing yourself when you do that, because there is a problem in podcasting where you get these like, the same person just goes on like this tour of podcasts, and by the end of it, no one wants to listen to them, or people only care about, you know, like if Elon Musk goes around on 50 different podcasts, I'll listen to all 50 of them and not know what the actual podcast was any of those times, you know? So I thought I liked the idea of doing like YouTube video podcasts, kind of having a little bit of a difference in what the type of content was, because I didn't want to just be like, hey, why don't you guys come on a podcast I'm doing and let's have the same conversation again.
That in its own way is probably a really good way to network as well, because it's like it's right within your skill share. Like it's nothing that you can't do. I just shout out Skillshare. Damn, they just got a free endorsement off me. I mean it's within your skill set though. Like I'm sure it's not super hard for you to make that video, so it's like it's a good way to network with people that you may potentially want to work with one day. That's cool. Little
and I like it too. I mean, I like this idea of just going around to other people's podcast studios and seeing, you know, what type of, because at the moment I'm not podcasting. I have one in the works that I don't know when I'm going to launch at this point. I have like 5 episodes of it done, but I'm still trying to work out the kinks. I'm very drawn nowadays to non-interview based podcasts, honestly. And just because there's not a lot of them, I feel like there's a lot of the second-rate Joe Rogan type of people out there just trying to do that thing. And so I just want to start a solo 1-1 because then I can only count on myself to actually make it happen at whatever schedule I want, however long I want the episode.
Oh, so you're just like talking. You're
just going to be me, and really just where I think I can help, or like random topics related to video production, related to social media marketing, that type of thing. Probably 3 to 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And just whatever I can think of, pretty much.
Commentary is pretty big on YouTube, or even like some kind of live stream. Why don't you get into something like that?
I've thought about it. It's just that's a lot of fucking work.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, that's a lot to set up.
Yeah,
and,
it has to make sense.
I had an A10 Mini Pro. I sold it.
Oh, really? We're trying to get one of those right now.
Yeah, and so I just that's a lot of stuff that I just don't have the time for right now. I like editing better. I've gone through a couple of the phases too. There was like a trend in podcasting for a while, mostly when I started, of like doing like these like no edit type of things, basically like our thing is raw and authentic and cool, and like that's the way that we're going to do it. So I had like a lot of clients that wanted to do that type of thing, where we're just like leaving in all the coughing and all the ums and all that. And there are some people that do that very well, but it only works well if you're really good at speaking. Yeah, that's what I've come to figure out. And then I have people that are not good at speaking that come to me and they're like, I love the way that Andy Frisella was the one that kind of started that whole trend, where he was like, this is just raw, like we don't edit a lot of stuff out of this. He's a damn good speaker though. You know, and so I'd have people that like literally stuttered would like come to me and be saying that type of thing. I'm like, we're going to edit your show, or people are not going to listen. Like, you get to choose.
It's not a bad idea for some people. I just think you got to do whatever works best for you, or like honestly, like what you. I think one of the most important things about creating content is really, like I was saying earlier, just doing what you want to do and what works best for you. Yeah. If you want, like, even if you don't talk very well, like if you want to just sit down and make a podcast that half the podcast is dry space and there's not a lot going on and you're stuttering here and there. I mean, if that's like, if you're being authentically you and that's how you want to do it, then do it that way. There's no telling if it won't ever work. Because I think when we all start, we all suck. Like if you go back and you watch our first episode, we're stuttering, we're brain farting every other sentence. We don't know what to say. The pressure of having mics and cameras on, like it's hard when you start. A lot of people don't realize that, and it really just comes with time. Like you're
getting better. Darren's still kind of quiet over there.
He's the fly on the wall right now. He's taking it in. But that's like our cool dynamic that we have. Like sometimes like we flow very well together. Other times like he does all the talking. Like there's episodes where I was feeling a lot of pressure. I don't know. It's just, you have off days. Like that's just a thing that people experience. Sometimes like I've been realizing like I definitely have a social battery. Like sometimes like I run out and I gas and I just like, I don't necessarily want to be around people and I'd rather just chill and I just like want to lay down or hang out. But we definitely all have social batteries, but I think he and I have a great dynamic in that regard. Like we ping pong very well off of each other's like.
So he's like charging right now while you're draining yours.
That's kind of how that goes.
Yeah, and then like 5 minutes I'm gonna be like fucking biting my nails or some shit, and then he's gonna kick on. But over the next 2 days, like again, like I'm sure you'll see him going forward. Like we have a podcast tomorrow, same time. Then we have a podcast the day after, same time. I'm sure tomorrow I won't be on my A game, and it's just that's I think the cool dynamic of doing a show, especially with like that's not by yourself. Like I always, when I had the idea to start this initially, the plan was to just do it myself. And thank God I didn't do it that way, because truthfully, I don't think
you'd still be doing it.
Not that I wouldn't still be doing it, but I don't think I would have been anywhere near the position I am right now if I tried it that way, because like I wasn't very social either when I was younger. It wasn't really ever me. I wasn't like the big go out person and rub elbows with people and network. That was never like really my thing. So it's just like it just came with reps, getting better. Like that's why I said you go early on in the podcast. There'll be podcasts where I fucking just sound like an idiot, and I'm sure he feels the same way about his performance as well. But it's just it literally just comes with reps. You just got to do it, and you'll get better at it.
How much does the accountability piece play in for both of you guys? Like, do you both feel pressure towards each other to like actually keep the thing moving forward?
Oh yeah, but like luckily for us, I think it works very well because like we're blood. We're actually family. We go back forever. So like this whole dream and idea that like we have of like escaping the matrix and beating the rat race, like it's a very shared belief and feeling. Like it's not like I believe we can take this empire and build it fucking to the moon, and he doesn't believe that. We both have like the same belief and values of like what any individual can achieve out of life, I guess you can say. And like we have a wild idea of in 2 years buying a bus or some kind of car or a truck and tricking it the fuck out and just traveling the country. Like you tell most people that, it's like, bro, you're fucking crazy. Like you're not gonna do that.
Yeah, right.
Why the fuck would I do that? Why would I put my
then you
life
find
on
the
hold?
people that you should be telling that to, and they're just like cheering you on, and you almost get scared. You're like, oh, I've never told that.
Yeah.
Never had anyone tell me that's a good idea before. Like that's what I'm like too. When I was on this trip down in Texas, like it's just you have these whole different conversations when you're with the right people. They're talking about like starting private jet businesses and stuff, and this type of thing. They're like, oh yeah, it'd be so easy. Well, and like first of all, take that with a grain of salt. But like, you know, it's just like, yeah, you just like you buy the jet, and then people, you know, you charge like 10, 15 grand like per ride and stuff. You pay the note, like they're just like chopping up all this stuff. It's just, it's like there's this weird middle point of like, I don't know, mindset basically. And there's so many people that are just getting more and more negative and just keep pushing themselves that way. And then there's like the opposite direction. And like no one is normal. You're either like crazy optimistic that you can do a lot of great shit, or you're crazy comfortable where you are, basically.
You wouldn't be in this business if you were sane. I think, like,
that's a great point.
That's one way to look at it. If you were just a normal fucking 9-to-5 working white picket fence, I want to get married motherfucker, you wouldn't be doing none of this. Like
fucking people that want to get married.
Well, not even just that. Like, I mean, he has a girlfriend he's been with for like 4 or 5 years. So like, I mean, like that definitely happens in this realm too. But it's like, I don't know. Like if that's like what you want out of life, this probably isn't the path for you. No. And even something like that, like traveling the fucking country for a year, 2 years, however long we plan on doing that, like no sane person is going to quit their job, start a podcast, start side businesses to fund their podcast, build this empire to the point where you can afford to go on these trips and travel and do these crazy things. Right. Like if you were fucking sane, you wouldn't think any of that. Yeah, you wouldn't.
Well, you would only think it.
Yeah,
you wouldn't do it.
Yeah, you go.
That's the problem with most people too. I've got friends literally, like we just took our little break there, and I've got friends that are like texting me. I hate this shit too, like talking about the next YouTube video they're gonna put up. I'm like, just do the damn thing. Which like I've got these friends that are like making like checklists for their editing and all this type of stuff, and like haven't put up a video in 5 months. Yeah.
At least they're doing it though. Like I know too many people from this area because we live in a small city, and a lot of people like from around here, they all want to be doing something, and everybody like jacks or says that they want to start posting on TikTok, or they want to start posting YouTube videos, or I want to drop a new song, and motherfuckers will say it and they talk a good game, but they just don't do it. And I think it's as simple as just doing it.
That makes me think they don't want to do it.
Yeah. You know it sounds cool to say. It sounds good. Like telling somebody like, oh, like I'm going to start making YouTube videos. It sounds cool. Like that sounds very interesting in terms of this area where there's not a lot of interesting shit going on.
So I've also become very much the opposite, where there are not a lot of people that realize like the magnitude of what I do outside of my day job in particular. And it's just like, you know, they're just like, oh, you're a licensed drone pilot, or like you're, you know, all this type of stuff, because I don't talk about it. I'm really, I don't know, because I'll talk about it in long form. I'll come on something like this and I'll just be like, ask me anything. I'm an open book, but you have to ask me. I don't just, I'm not the type of person that just goes around like, like I'm a wedding videographer and you know, this type of stuff. And then people are just like, oh, you do stuff.
People just see things face value too. Like they see something for what it appears to be. Like in terms of what most people think about what we do is we sit down and we do a podcast and we talk to people. They don't know the fucking half, let alone the quarter of what goes on behind the scenes. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like all like the figuring out shit and like planning and like actually building a business out of something and like taking good steps towards like achieving what you actually want to achieve. They don't see any of that, so they just see things face value for what it seems. Oh, those kids just do a podcast. Well, no, we don't just do a podcast. I fucking now edit full time. I do all of those things, which most people would never know because they just don't see it that way. They just see the product. That's what it is for
it's real crabs in the bucket type of thing too. You know, just the more they try to climb out, the more that everyone else is going to just try to pull you back. And it's usually not ill-intended. It's just, you know, we want you to be safe. Like, okay, well, where has being safe gotten you?
Yeah. You know? Or people want to feel good about not doing anything. So
yeah, that could be a thing too.
They want to feel like, I'm not going to lie, that was something that happened to me during the year of COVID, where like, for one time in my life, I was genuinely happy that like, and granted, I completely shifted from this belief. I don't think this way anymore, but there was a point in me at that point in time where like, damn, like nobody could really be doing anything right now. So I don't really need to worry about like grinding or like, everybody else is in the same boat as me, so I don't have to try harder than everybody else. But now, like, I completely have the opposite belief is like, to be great and to strive to do the things that we're trying to do, you have to do what the other people are not willing to do.
Yeah, right.
So
that's like jumping out of the stock market when it's at its lowest. Yep. Like, it's just like, oh, maybe this is the time I should be buying and working even harder. And, you know, I've noticed that about a lot of just like the case studies I've learned, like with First Form. I don't know if it was even First Form yet. It was because he had stores before he built the actual brand, but I know he talks about that a lot, that like the 2008 recession and maybe another one were the times that his business grew the most because he kept working through them while everyone was like, oh, the economy sucks. I guess I'll just take my foot off the gas until it's better.
No.
Okay.
You got to do what people are not willing to do, or you're just going to be in a saturated market. Like, if you just want to do what everybody else is doing, then
cool.
There's not a lot of room to grow. I mean, you can maybe put your own spin on it. I mean, podcasting is very similar to that. A lot of people do podcasting nowadays, so I'm kind of like talking in a circle, but it's like you got to find a way to be unique. You can't just follow the curve and do what everybody else is doing, because why not just go watch Joe Schmo's podcast if he's doing the same shit? Like, just go watch somebody who does it better than you. You got to be different. You got to be able to do the things people are not willing to do. That's very important.
Preach, Kevin.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, boys, what do you think?
Honorable.
Good? Honorable?
Honorable.
Time to go enjoy this fuck off. I got to go get some food in my stomach.
Yes, now we have to go drink our beers and watch the news.
That's
After.
what we're going to do. We're going to go watch News Watch 16 and crack open a Busch Light.
With our wives.
Yeah.
The white picket fence.
And the white picket fence, and then go to the 9 to 5.
Shitty marriages.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, Justin, this is a fun conversation, man. I'm happy we did this. It was fun to talk to you, man. Definitely plug anything you got, websites, social medias, anything like you're interested in sharing with people.
Jesus Lord. Okay, so I already plugged YouTube, but I'll plug it again. That is /JRP Creative at the end of YouTube, but it is just Justin Phillips, my name, if you wanted to search for it. If you search for it, Justin Phillips is very generic. I'm pretty sure you'll find like a Canadian football player and like a doctor from the West and like everything. Yeah. So the JRP Creative thing might be the better way to go. I do have jrpcreative.com, which is my more commercial social media management business side of things.
Nice.
And then if you're local, or even if you're not local and interested, I also have jrpfilms.com, which is specific to weddings. Mm-hmm. And then all my social media is just personal @_JustinRP.
There you go. I'll make sure to
Instagram and Twitter. Don't bother me on anything else.
I'll make sure to plug all that in the description for you. Hit him up. He does good work. He definitely does do well behind the Adobe Premiere, right? That's what you're working on these days?
Mostly. I use all three of them pretty regularly, but yeah.
There you go. So yeah, guys, it's a fun conversation.
If you want to start a fight in the comments about what the best editor is, I'll chime in.
There you go. I'll take me. No, I fucking suck at editing. All right, guys. Much love. Thank you for tapping in. We love you guys.
Thank you,
Let's go. Peace out.
Thank you.